The website is working well for the vast majority of users. More problems may pop up, as they always do when you're launching something new, and when they do, we'll fix those too. I will work with anybody to implement and improve this law effectively. You got good ideas? Bring them to me. Let's go. But we're not repealing it as long as I'm president. I want everybody to be clear about that.
It's not just a broken website. This bill is fundamentally flawed. Causing people to lose the doctor of their choice, causing them to lose their health plan. And if that isn't enough, they're having to pay much higher prices at the same time.
Charles, yesterday we talked about the back end. In other words, the data going to the insurance companies that they are reporting is garbled, sometimes not accurate, other times just totally incomplete. But really the back end is the payment of the premium, because you can't have the insurance unless you pay the premium. And there was testimony on Capitol Hill a couple of weeks ago that that was never set up through this system. So insurers will have to reach out to those people individually. Otherwise, no matter what the numbers are in healthcare.gov, it would be a big zero if they don't pay the premium.
Look, it's another linguistic sleight of hand here. The back end sounds like some, obscure curlicue in the process. It's the cash register. It's the point at which you make the purchase. And if you don't have correct information or any information, you don't have a purchase, you don't have enrollment, you don't have a plan, you have a catastrophe. And everybody understands that. I don't agree that the website issue is over. It's still a rolling issue. The cancellations and the other issues are just added upon it, and they're going to get worse next year when you get the cancellations from the employers. But the website's a catastrophe. Well, we heard Jay Carney say breezily today, well, 1 million people went on the website. Well, how many enrolled? Apparently, that number is not obtainable. Either they know it and are suppressing it, which I suspect is probably true, or they have no way of knowing, which tells you that this thing is a turkey. Amazon refreshes its bestseller list every hour. I know because I check it every hour.
Every minute. Yeah.
Every hour. And these guys say we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to wait a month until we're going to be able to tell you how many enroll. This thing is absolutely non-functional. And Obama, it's sort of touching the way he believes in the power of rhetoric, his rhetoric, in denying and trumping reality. He can't. He can issue all the words he wants, but he can't unless he fixes what's out there. People are experiencing the cancellations, experiencing the pauses, and if they show up on January 1 thinking they are enrolled in a plan, see a doctor, incur an expense, and aren't, that's going to be the end for Obamacare.
One might almost say tech snobbish portion of our population are young people. They've watched this disaster and they're saying, I want to trust my health to these guys? I don't think so.
And I'd add one item. The absence of tort reform in a bill that's 2,000 pages long is an absolute scandal. Everybody understands that the reason we have the most expensive health care in the world is because we have an insane malpractice system, and this did absolutely nothing. And the reason is, as Howard Dean admitted once, we didn't want to anger the trial lawyers.
Just a few years ago, the auto industry wasn't just struggling, it was flatlining. GM and Chrysler were on the verge of collapse. But we refused to throw in the towel and do nothing. We refused to let Detroit go bankrupt. I bet on American workers and American ingenuity, and 3 years later, that bet is paying off in a big way.
And I thought in the campaign he said it would be horrible for Detroit to go bankrupt.
Well, I think that there is enormous hardship caused by some of the problems that have happened in Detroit, which is why this needs to be resolved between the city and its creditors. Our position on this is the same as it was prior to the judge's ruling and prior to, or in the immediate aftermath of the declaration of bankruptcy.
I don't ordinarily defend the president, but clearly what he meant by Detroit was a shorthand for the auto industry. He was not referring to Detroit, the city. I think there is no way in which he's going to engineer a bailout of Detroit, at least anyone that can be seen. Perhaps there can be ways that he can transfer money that'll be less visible. But look, this is an issue that Detroit's going to have to settle. It owes $18 billion, which it cannot pay. Michael Barone was once asked why he went from being a liberal to a conservative, and he had a one-word answer: Detroit. He grew up in Detroit. 50 years of liberal governance utterly ruined it, in addition to outright theft and the fraud. And this is the legacy. The unions are going to try to put a monkey wrench in this, to try to slow it down and launch appeals on this, but in the end it's not going to work. Unfortunately, the pensioners are going to be hurt, as will all the other creditors, and Detroit's going to have a second chance. Otherwise, it has no chance whatsoever.
What about this White House, what it's saying and doing?
I'd like to see them try and get a bailout for a blue city ruined by one-party Democratic rule through Congress.
Absolutely. There's going to be no attempt. Carney had an opportunity to actually say the federal government's going to help, and he stayed way away from that. Look, Obama said, I'm going to spend the next 3 years of my administration, if I have to, defending Obamacare. He doesn't have any political capital left over for anything, especially the bailout of a democratic city.
Excuse me.
This has been a Sunfish production.